It's interesting that the British Railway Stories was initially conceived in 2007 as a group assignment for students at Loughborough University. 5 years of popular broadcast on YouTube later, the show's creator, Simon A.C. Martin, published an introduction to the stories in book form titled Tale of the Unnamed Engine. Set against the post-war nationalisation era of Britain's railway system, the story is told through inner monologue from the point of view of Stephen, a privately owned Great Eastern Railway tender engine whom, for the benefit of the story, is being displayed at the National Railway Museum in York. He gets talking to a curious young boy named Stanley, who takes interest in Stephen's aforementioned tale of prototype Peppercorn A1 Pacific No. 60114 during the phase when the engine was so new that it was yet to carry a name. The engine spends his inaugural revenue-earning movements wondering who he is and what his work entails. In doing so, he comes across a number of other engines, but only seems to remember one, the condescending Gresley A4 Sir Ralph Wedgwood. Their conversation is brief, but enough to perturb the junior engine. However, when Sir Ralph comes a cropper later in the story, it's up to the unnamed engine to step in. The concept of anthropomorphic trains has been culturally dominated by the Thomas & Friends franchise for over 30 years now, so anybody new to the BRWS could be led to assume that this is just another attempt to copy it. However, while the former began with fiction and non-fiction elements grounded in a form of reality where the fictitious setting and characters were based on a real setting with real types of locomotives, the BRWS is all set on the actual British Railway's eastern region of the late 1940s, featuring engines which worked on it at the time. Inspiration may be taken from Audrey's Railway Series books, but the BRWS manages to establish itself to a point where comparisons are negligible. On the face of it, there isn't that much to the story itself. It's an introductory piece of world building intended as a starting point not only for the BRWS, but for newcomers to the concept of steam trains and railway history. So the simple story, simple character development, and minimal conflict may not be to everybody's liking, but the descriptive details on railway operation, i.e. shunters, coaling stages, turntables, and carriage works, complement the fictional elements. In favour of the characters, there's a basic life lesson that not everybody you encounter in your place of work, study, or interest, in this case the railway, will necessarily be your friend. It's also interesting to note that while there are many engines referenced in the story, only 4 are actually named, eventually including the unnamed one. The text is accompanied by digital paintings from Dean Walker, who's managed to develop a signature style unique to the BRWS. The NRM images are full of vibrant colours, but the standout ones are those told during the unnamed engine story itself. The surroundings of a run-down, war-torn railway system seen as a shadow of its former self are offset by the bright greens and blues freshly applied by British Railways to their passenger locomotives, noting the regime change at that time. It helps to emphasise that in a black and white post-war world, colour did exist, even if it was in limited swatches. For anyone craving to learn more about how railways were run in the days of steam, 1/4 of the book expands on railway principles and terminology, specifically with some practices acquainted to the London and North Eastern Railway. Just like the rest of the book, the tables and diagrams are all easy to interpret without making the reader feel like they're being spoken down to. Tale of the Unnamed Engine doesn't try too hard to be anything other than itself, a starting point for the British Railway stories, a level up from the bare basic introduction to the concept of trains, and a more realistic alternative to the Thomas & Friends franchise. If you enjoyed the likes of Peter's Railway, then you might well enjoy this too. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you liked what you hear and you'd like to see more on the channel, then feel free to like, share, subscribe, discuss, contribute to my Patreon, and check out my range of merchandise at www.egmedia.co.uk/shop. See you next time.